When people talk about television spies, they talk about what television lacked: the budgets, the scale, the spectacle, and assume the genre must therefore be a smaller, cheaper imitation. But Danger Man matters for the opposite reason. It isn't television copying espionage, it's television inventing its own way of thinking about it. This is the moment when television learns that spies don't need scale to be convincing, they need pressure. And crucially, Danger Man doesn't fight against television's limits. It discovers what those limits are good for. Cinema spies dominate space. They move freely, act decisively, and bend the world around them. They win visibly. Their victories feel final. Television can't do that, and Danger Man doesn't try. Instead, it shrinks the spy down to a human scale. Not powerless, but contained. Not naive, but constrained. John Drake is not a conquering figure. He doesn't overwhelm situations. He navigates them. He reads rooms, absorbs pressure, and maneuvers inside systems that are already in motion before he arrives. His intelligence is situational rather than spectacular. This is espionage designed for television's natural habitat: offices, corridors, interview rooms, anonymous streets, spaces where power is implied rather than displayed, and in those spaces, certainty is rare. What Danger Man quietly invents is the spy as functionary. Drake is not a fantasy hero operating above institutions. He works for them, and is often limited by them. Orders arrive incomplete, authority is distant and opaque, objectives shift mid-mission. He is competent, observant, and frequently boxed in. This matters because it changes the emotional temperature of espionage. Success no longer feels triumphant. Failure is rarely catastrophic. Instead, outcomes feel compromised. Missions end, but they rarely feel like victories. This is not a failure of storytelling, it's the point. Television discovers that espionage works best when it feels unresolved, when being right doesn't feel like winning. Again and again, Danger Man places its central character under pressure rather than giving him power. Pressure from institutions, pressure from time, pressure from incomplete information. The series understands something that television drama will return to repeatedly in later decades. Pressure is easier to sustain weekly than spectacle. You can't explode a building every episode, but you can keep a character morally uncertain indefinitely. And that uncertainty becomes the show's real engine. On the surface, Danger Man often looks conventional. The plots are recognisable, the settings are grounded, the tone is controlled. But beneath that surface, something quietly radical keeps happening. Authority is rarely transparent. Instructions are ambiguous. Success feels compromised. The series persistently asks a question it never quite answers. What does it mean to do the right thing inside a system that never confirms you did? Television learns here that ambiguity is not a weakness, it's a resource. The shift from shorter episodes to longer ones isn't incidental. As stories are given more room to breathe, psychology deepens, motives blur, explanations thin out rather than solidify. The world begins to resist tidy resolution. Instead of clarifying the moral landscape, time destabilizes it. Television discovers something crucial in this transition. Espionage becomes more convincing when it is uncomfortable, not spectacular, not triumphant, unsettled. This is television learning how to let tension linger rather than resolve. One of the most important things Danger Man establishes, often without drawing attention to it, is the idea that institutions matter more than individuals. Governments are not reliable narrators. Agencies do not guarantee justice. Procedures do not ensure morality. The spy does not transcend the system. He survives inside it. This institutional weight will become a defining feature of British television drama, far beyond the espionage genre. It is tempting to treat Danger Man as a stepping stone towards something more flamboyant or more extreme, but that flattens what it actually achieves. What follows is not evolution, it is rupture. Where Danger Man attempts containment through procedure, the prisoner rejects the procedural mask entirely. It exposes the spy format itself as unstable, even dishonest. The connection between the two is not narrative, it is structural. The same pressure finally refusing to resolve. So this episode is not about nostalgia, it's about craft history. Danger Man shows television discovering its own limits and then turning those limits into style. It explains why television spies feel boxed in, why institutions loom larger than individual heroes, and why British television so often privileges pressure over power. This is the moment television stops dreaming of being cinema and starts becoming itself. And that is why Danger Man still matters. Thanks very much for listening. I did do a bit on The Prisoner a few weeks ago if you want to have a look at that. Otherwise, I'll be back with another television show on another day. Bye.